Hello everyone. Today we're going to do one of the first of a series of videos on how I make things in Autodesk Fusion 360. Today we're going to make a model of the Phlogisynchotron Pistol from the Outer Worlds, which is an awesome video game I loved. Highly recommend it to anyone. And yeah, so we're going to start by finding some reference pictures on ArtStation or just Google, side views, and any other views that you can find. I have a few other views here. And those are really the most useful thing that you can have. So once we do that, we will open a project in Autodesk Fusion 360 and we will import the canvas. Go to Insert Canvas, and then you say Insert from my computer. You find the file. I'm going to go with the side view. Okay, then I'm going to expand it here. So one of the things I like to do is reference some of my previous builds to get the size right. So I'm going to open up a previous build. Let's see which one's a good one. Let's go with the Infinity Gun. Infinity Gun. I have a lot of projects, as you can see. Okay, we'll go with the Infinity Mark 5 because I have so many of them. And this is the main assembly here, right here. Please ignore my horrible file naming system. Please don't judge me. So here we're going to measure the width. We're going to go to Design, and then we're just going to go to Inspect, and we'll rotate that here to here. Okay, so that is 50 millimeters, and that grip is like a good size for me, so as long as it's within that distance, this will work. I'm going to show you a cool feature on Autodesk Fusion 360 that's relatively new. I'm going to right-click on the canvas and hit Calibrate. Then you can click 2 points on the canvas and tell it what the distance is supposed to be. So in this case, it's supposed to be 50 millimeters. So now this is scaled to exactly the size that I want. Really lucky in this case because I have a 2D side view of this object. But before we get started, let's take a look at what the other things are in this gun. So I might be able to extract a 3D model from this, but I don't think I want to because this is a nice simple build. That's weird. Stupid pop-ups. Anyways, let's look at this and kind of break it down and see how we're going to print this in such a way that we can hide seams. So this piece right here looks like it could be printed in one piece on its side and finished. This middle piece here is also pretty consistently shaped throughout the whole thing. We can add some bits and pieces, but we could probably print this back piece and then this piece on top. And I'll show you kind of what I mean in a minute. It'll be sort of a layered build here. Okay, so let's go back to Fusion. And the first things first, this section right here is an independent piece. So we're going to model that up really quickly. So to be helpful, I have installed a software here that will tell you what I'm typing. That should be helpful. We'll see. Okay, so first things first, we want to make this section here. Okay, so we're going to start with an arc. Go a 3-point arc here. It's not perfect. I'll do that. We're going to go for a spline instead. So sometimes I like to make the line actually go straight up here, and then I'm going to intersect it with a normal line and then trim it so that we can make a fillet there. So we look at this, and there are actually a couple layers to this, and I'll adjust these lines in a minute, but this is where we're going. Now, I bet someone could probably do this faster in Blender or anything like that, but this is what I know, and this is what I'm teaching. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to run this a little bit deeper, And this is one of the way that we're going to hide some seams. This top piece is actually going to slot into this whole gun once it's assembled. So if we look at some of the reference pictures, those middle pieces there, those are pretty thin. So those won't, yeah, those aren't going to actually work quite as well as I'd hoped. Okay, so that kind of goes there, that goes there, that's a big main section. Yeah, sorry, I'm just muttering to myself now. Okay, so we're going to adjust this a little bit, tweak these so that it's where we want. And this really doesn't need to be perfect. Nobody's going to see these like minute details. Okay, so then we're going to trim. And that's with T usually. One rule is try not to fill it until you're done. So don't fill it sketches. It's not worth it. Trust me. So this is actually going to need to be coming up here. Okay, so done. Great. Okay, so we exit the sketch, and then we can extrude. We're going to extrude just a little bit. I like working in millimeters personally. This is probably too big, but we can go back and edit it since we have the feature tree down here. I'm going to go with 8 millimeters. Now, I'm working on this as if this backplane is going to be mirrored the whole way. Now, at some point, there's going to be parts of this that are not mirrored, but that is okay. Oops, I put the sketch in the wrong place. Let's try that again. And still didn't work. Why is it doing that? There we go. Okay, so now we're going to trace out this main big section here. I'm going to look at the reference pictures again, the angled ones. So this is actually kind of stopping right around there and then going up there. This whole section back here is actually all one big piece along this line right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this whole section here. Yeah, I think that'll work. Okay, so I kind of fly by the seat of my pants when I'm doing this, if you couldn't tell. So this is how we're going to go. Arc. Nice curve there. Another line. All the way back. Make sure it's perpendicular. So if you see here, there's going to be another one actually here, and this is going to curve back, but we can figure that out after. Okay, so we're going to actually add a section here, and then there's this curve back here. This whole thing is curved. And it doesn't quite look like the tangent curve there, so we're going to shift that and then shift this a little bit. Nobody's going to be able to tell the difference. It's going to go around there. I actually can tell the difference here, so delete that. Shift that in a little bit more. One thing to keep in mind is that constraints are your friend. So I'm going to make this tangent here. Why is that being silly? Give me my tangent. Where are my constraints? Oh, interesting. They moved the constraints to this menu here. I did not know that. Okay, now that's constrained to vertical, and that is what I want. So I'm going to extend that so that it's touching. And then I'm going to trim that, and that is perfect. Okay, great. So I know I said we don't need to fill it, but in this case you can. There are not a lot of, it's a small like detail fillets that I tend to not do until the end. And I will probably break my own rule at some point. I'm warning you right now. Okay, so I'm actually going to look at the reference 3D again. Oops. Go away. I don't want you. So there are a couple different ways we could actually do this. We could actually cut along this seam here. And I think I might actually do that. That means that there will likely be a seam along the back unless we figure out a good way to print that, or a seam somewhere else. Let's think about that actually. Yeah, I think I want to have this whole front plate kind of slide around and it'd be a nice little flat section to print from up here. So we're going to do that instead. So that is right in here. So we're going to draw that too. That's right here. So this is kind of a seamless transition here. So I'm actually going to try and use this seam line. You can see that I'm flip-flopping as I go. And admittedly, this takes some practice and is often just kind of flying by the seat of your pants. So we're going to go down here. This guy is going to come up. We're going to go over. Going to go up, over. It's not quite right. Tweak that a little bit. Trim. That can probably be angle. Trim here. Trim. Okay, so now when we extrude this, we have to make sure that it's a new body and then we're not cutting anything. So we're going to make, say, new body. And if we're looking at that 3D representation, it's probably equivalent to 10 millimeters. I'm going to say 10 right now. And this one, that means that this one is actually going to be narrower. So we're going to go back to this one, edit that feature, make that 6. And I'm going to make this one actually 12. This is all proportional, and it all really just depends on how you see the parts. So if I look at this again, yeah, that looks about right. Okay, so once we have this portion here, this portion is actually a couple different layers. So this is going to be a seam right along here now that I look at this. That is a great place to make a print. The seam kind of goes all the way down, right through here. So it's not quite all the way down, but we're going to edit that. We're going to make a new sketch here. Actually, we're going to edit that. Yeah, we'll make a new sketch. So if we look really closely, there's a seam right here. And I'm going to take some artistic liberties here and match this line right here. Now we're going to project. So we have two parts here. And what I'm actually going to do here is finish the sketch and then extrude this out. Going to delete it and then show that sketch again, and then we're going to make another one. Oops, I removed everything. I didn't want to do that. Another way of doing this is actually using the split command, which I'll show you. So that is the split body command. Select the body you want to split. And I have to make a plane first. So I'm going to use the plane through 3 points. 1, 2, and 3. And that's the plane. That becomes our splitting tool. We're going to split that with the splitting tool here. Boom. That did not work. Select that. Select the plane. Done. Okay. So now we have 1, 2, 3 bodies. Okay, great. So let's look at that document, that reference again. And this whole section here is what we're going to work on right now. So what we can do is hide the other two. And we're going to just kind of make that a little prettier. So if we look at that reference, this is just a fillet here. It could be a single fillet, it could be a multi-fillet, doesn't matter. I'm going to make a new sketch, create a sketch on this face here. I'm going to actually do this little detail on the front. center point slot. Oh, not center point slot. I want the center to center slot. So I'm going to do distance to each side so that it's actually symmetrical-ish. 9.9. That's 7, so we're going to go 8 and 8. It's a little too big, so we're going to go 8.8. Nope, we'll just kind of shift that, and then looks like it's actually not symmetrical. So perfect. So I'm going to undo those 2 dimensions. Copy, paste. Paste. Perfect. Okay, so we can finish that sketch. We're going to extrude that maybe 4 millimeters. Looks like it might be a little big. Yeah, let's go with 3. Then we can fillet this edge. Now, I know I said don't do fillets, but in this case, see, I'm breaking my own rules. I'm going to fillet it. We can always undo it later. You'll see why I want to fillet this now in a few minutes. Basically what I want to do is I want to be able to estimate the kind of parts that I'm going to be printing and where all these parts are going to land in my prop. Okay, so I'm going to hide this actually for a minute, and I'm going to look at this again. So it's nice and rounded, big round up here. We're going to fillet that. So 5. I think it's actually bigger than that, so let's edit that. Yep, that looks better. And then we're going to fill this whole big edge here. Yep. So that part looks pretty good. Okay. Actually, this section here isn't quite right. So I'm actually editing this fillet, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that fillet and delete this fillet. I'm going to do this fillet first. If we look at the picture again. Oops. Yep. So I'm going to undo that, edit that feature. That's 6. We'll go with 5, and then we'll fillet that whole edge again. Okay, great. Perfect. Okay, so that section is done. So we're going to undo this, or we're going to show this again, and then we're going to show this again. Perfect. So we have this section here. Now that is a printable object. That is not an object that is going to be an issue to print. So this is one of the reasons why I like to kind of make my models printable. Now if we look at this, I actually messed this up a little bit because this is actually a little bit further out. I'm being a little anal here, so I'm going to leave this because this is just how it's going to work. I do think I want to get this fillet out of the way, but we'll see how it goes. So if we go to the sketch that defined that shape, edit that sketch, and that's a projected shape, so we can't really edit that very easily without breaking some stuff, so we're going to leave it. Okay, this top piece here, we could start with the fillets now, but there's this sort of section along here with the details. We're going to leave that for a little bit and then come back to it. Okay, so we're going to work on this back section here and see how that's all going to kind of mix together. So one of the things I want to make sure of is that I can print things with as little support material as possible because I absolutely hate support material. In this case, we may need to use some support material, but we also might not if we can get lucky, so to speak. So I'm looking at this right now, and there's the center section, which is here. So the center section just protrudes. It doesn't really, it has some features in it, but there's not like a whole bunch of stuff on the inside. So if I wanted to light this, I could. And we'll work on that after. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you another way that I'm going to make this printable. So this whole section here could be printed if you sliced it on the plane that we're looking at. But there's also a way to print it if you slice it on this plane. So this part here will need some cleanup in the end. And actually I'm going to go with a circle here. Get that the right shape. It's a little bit big. Shift that. Perfect. Get that. Extend that. It's still a little bit off, but that's good enough for government work. So we're going to go here. Project these sketches and then delete the dependency because I like these, but we don't need that dependency anymore. Dependency's fine in this case. We'll leave it. I may regret that, but now we can print this whole section in one go. And we can actually make this grip kind of fit into there. So sometimes to my detriment, I like to include most of the curves that the developers and or art designers included, and that is, like I said, often to my detriment. However, it is fun, and if I can get it as accurate as possible, I really enjoy that. Okay, so we're going to trim that out here. Okay. So then we're going to exit the sketch. We're going to extrude. We're going to say to object. We're going to go up to here. We're going to make a new body. Boom, done. Okay, so we have a bunch of bodies here. This is fine. We're going to hide the canvas for a minute. And we're going to look at this. So we have this piece right here in the front that we can print. And we have these two side pieces. Let's look at what those two side pieces are going to be. So this back piece, I'm actually making a seam right here, which we can cover up. That seam is not a horrible seam. It's a small area. There's some curves and stuff that I would have to take care of, but that would not be a difficult seam to fill. And there's all this other stuff going on here that will hide a lot of that. So we're going to show you how to, we're going to fillet that down. Go with 5. I think that's what I decided, right? Yeah, we're going to fillet that one. I'm doing this right now because I want to see how this is all going to go together. That was a weird one. Okay, so right now these don't actually line up, and that's because my heights are different. But that's okay because I think they're different in the image. Well, no, it actually goes all the way over. So that means that all of this needs to kind of be edited a little bit. So edit the sketch. We're actually going to raise that up a little. Oops. We're going to make these coincident or collinear. And then shift them all up. Show the canvas, get that right. Get it right there. And this is actually going to come down a tiny bit. Perfect. Okay. Finish the sketch, and that should fix that. Okay, great. Perfect. They're all lined up. So, like I said, we could print this in two parts this way, which I might still decide to do if I actually am going to be putting electronics in this. This is actually probably a good point to actually look at this and say, do I want electronics in this? And honestly, I think the answer might be yes, unfortunately. But I really don't like putting electronics in at this point. I usually like hating myself later on when I have to redesign the whole prop. So here goes. If we print this whole block, say we joined these two blocks, we could take a section out that this top block fits in, and that then removes this whole section of seam that we would see. We'll have this seam along the back. Seams along the back are not great because you see it when you're holding the gun, but you don't see it that much if you're not the one holding the gun. So this section here, I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to make most of this the way I don't like to, but these details in the front don't need to have seams. This bottom part here probably doesn't need to have a seam. So we can print these all separate. Okay, so I'm going to join, Boolean combine these three pieces. Now that's here. So what I like to do often is I like to save it, and then I'm going to actually save this as a new copy, and I just say pistol copy progress 1. The beauty of cloud storage. So now I'm going to do this last little section here. We're going to make a new sketch. We're going to go, so you can see there's actually like kind of a portion here that I missed with the fillet on that side. So we're actually going to fillet that now. Okay, we're going to show that again. That looks better. Perfect. Okay, we're going to go in here. We're going to modify this. Do an arc. So there are a lot of panel lines on this, and I can go into making panel lines in a little bit, as those are a pretty specific thing. We want to see that circle. We want to make sure that's the same circle, so we're going to project that on. Extend this so that that matches up. And then we're going to go up here and over to our projected line here. Okay, so we've got a part. Now, that actually is a little bit thin for my tastes here, so we could change that. What I will likely do is kind of shift that up a little bit, like that, but right now it's on a projected line, so I want to delete those projected lines. Okay, give that a little bit more meat. Okay. So now we're going to exit the sketch. We're going to extrude that, and that's going to stick out a little bit more. We're going to hide that. And that is cutting out, but that's okay. We want that to go to an object. We're going to go to this vertex. We're going to make a new body. Now, tolerances in 3D printing are a thing, and we will get there. We are not there at the moment. So now there's another piece that I need to edit and extrude. extrude this piece here. This is actually going to come out a little bit less. I'm going to make that a new piece. Okay. I'm going to fill out this edge right here because that's a detail that's important. You can see that there's a little bit of a gap there, so we're going to fill that edge too if we can find it. We'll hide that body, fill that. And we're going to bring that body back. So the first thing we're going to do now is we're going to say Boolean this, and we're going to take this piece here, and we're going to cut it. And we're going to make this the tool, and we're going to keep the tool. Oops, no, we want target body. Tool body is this guy. Keep the tool. Okay, cool. So now these are all pieces, and I'm going to join this piece and this piece. Here, join, boom, boom, done. Okay, so now we've got a bunch of the body here. So this piece is cutting into this piece a little bit. We're going to do that. We're going to say combine, make this cut. That's the selected body. We're going to pick the tool, which is that one. We're going to keep the tool. Boom, done. Okay, so we are at sort of a main body here. I'm going to kind of mirror some of these parts quickly. Go with bodies, mirror that body, mirror plane there, mirror this body, mirror plane there. Okay, so as I said, this is actually turning out to be a not great example of like super ideal modifications for ease of 3D printing, but it'll work. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, we've got a double body there. I'm going to delete that one. That didn't work. Okay, so there's this weird thing in Fusion 360 sometimes where you want to delete something, but when you delete it, it breaks everything else. So you have to use the remove function. I don't really know why. Never really did ask. But if you delete something and it breaks, it's probably because you actually need to remove it, and that's all. So this is still a body here. We're going to go with mirror that piece. I mirrored the wrong one. That's why. Okay. Go with mirror. Okay. Perfect. So, and then we're going to mirror this piece up here. So first things first, I'm going to combine these two since those were always meant to be the same piece. Gonna join. Boom, done. And I'm going to say don't keep the tools because we don't need to keep the tools. So this is where you can start using Booleans to kind of make some interesting choices as to how you're going to actually modify this so that it prints nicely and you can hide some seams. So this seam right here is going to be annoying. I can tell you that right now. And that's one of the reasons why I was considering actually making this whole piece a separate piece. Now, we can do that still. Where did I join those? I'm going to back up. Further back up. I think it's to about here. So we have, yep, we have all these separate pieces. So then we go to filleting. And it was here that we combined everything. So I'm going to edit this feature. I'm going to change this. I don't want to combine these. I want to combine these two, not the front piece. Okay. So then we're going to shift all the way down, and it still worked. Everything mirrored except for this piece because this is a new piece now. So we're going to take this piece. We're going to mirror this. And we're going to join this. So this is now one piece that can be printed on the bed with no support material. Again, there's some discrepancy here. We have to combine this, make a tool, cut, make the tool this one, keep the tool. Okay, so now if we hide that one, great. This side didn't do that too, so I got to do the same thing. Cut, tool body is this guy, keep the tool. Okay, so now if we hide that, that's now cut. Great. We'll deal with tolerances later, like I said. Now, this front seam is not going to be there when we 3D print this, which is wonderful. I hate seams. Okay, we're going to hide that construction line right now. Okay, so we're going to put that canvas back up, right? And we're going to talk about these little bits here. So one of the ways that we can do this is we can make these print all as one piece, I think. Let's look at the 3D. So that's actually a separate piece. This is a separate piece, and this could probably be part of this, but I'm not going to make it part of this because I want to be able to print this whole section as a flat section on the bed of the printer. Do the barrel first. That's easy. We're going to say, let's go with a point first. Where's my point? Point. Great. Okay, so we're going to go a line across. Delete that point. That was just a reference point. We're going to go with a circle. So I like to add some dimensions here just so I have I like to round numbers. No, we're going to go with 16. No, we're going to go with 17. Okay, well, annoying round number, but it's there. So great. Going to go with 2 sides. Going to have it extrude a little bit into it, and then we're going to have it extrude a little bit out. And we're going to make a new body. Okay. And we're going to chamfer that edge because it's chamfered. 1.5. Okay, great. Great new sketch. Sketch here. That is now 14, so we'll make that middle one 12. Yeah, 12. Yeah, make it 10. Nope, we're going to go with 11. Great. And actually, there's a gap there, so I am wrong. I'm going to go with 10. And then we're going to offset that by 2. I'll go with 9. Offset that by 2. And 1.5, actually. There we go. And we'll extrude that. Let's look to see how we're doing here. Great. Now, I could have probably made this whole thing a little bit bigger, but it's fine. Okay. This is actually going to be, we're going to move this out a little bit. Bodies, this guy, we're going to move it, shift it out. A little more. See, I told you I was anal. Okay, so we're going to hide body 11. We're going to extrude this out a little bit more so that it has somewhere to sit. Put this in. And this is where these parts are really easy to make disappear. So we're going to go into combine. We're going to cut with this guy, keep the tool, boom, done. Now, again, third time, we're going to go over tolerances later. But I think you guys are getting the point. This is a good start. And we'll work on this again soon, hopefully. And yeah, this is coming along quicker than I'd hoped. So we're in pretty good shape. We've worked for, I don't actually know how long right now, but we have a pretty decent start on this. Not whipped out in 10 minutes, but it is pretty good start. We have one seam here that maybe we'll get rid of eventually, and we have no seam in the front, no seam on the top. And this piece will hide most of the seam along that edge. So next time around we'll work on the grip and then the fasteners, and then we'll work on that fancy part in the middle and how to deal with cavities and installing electronics into your prop. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. I will do my best to answer them. And don't hesitate to subscribe or hit the bell to be notified when the next one comes out. Okay, I'll see you all soon. Thanks for watching.